Welcome back. Another episode of Looking for Work. Super excited to be here on this fine Tuesday. We do this every week, Tuesday at 12 o'clock Pacific. And the way this works is I'll hang out here for a while. We should be on all the major social medias. So LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. If you've got a question about getting started in tech, about landing your first job, about interviewing, about passion projects, then feel free, drop me a comment. Hello, Sumita. Good to see you. Appreciate you joining again. So, yeah, this is just an opportunity for folks that are trying to get their foot in the door, figure out what the process is. More than happy to lend my insight and share with you what my experience has lent me in terms of what it takes to get your first job. Caleb, good to see you. Love people joining early. That's awesome. LinkedIn fam, appreciate LinkedIn. This is where you should be if you're looking for work. So I can kind of tell some people join from YouTube or joining on Twitch. Twitch is good. You can do some game streaming, things like that. But LinkedIn is legit the place that you should be if you're on the job search, because it's so much easier to connect with people that can actually make a decision and can help you in this process. And I just can't overstate how important it is for you to step your game up. If you're looking for that first opportunity, LinkedIn is something you got to be pretty solid on. I'll mention a couple others, but I would really love to have folks just engage and ask questions. So feel free to drop a comment in the box, and that'll come to me. So if you're looking for a question to be answered, drop it in there. This process is way funner when I just get to kind of hear and help out. So on that pieces of collateral, I think there's a few pieces of collateral that are really important for you to have, especially if you just graduated from a coding boot camp, or you're self-taught and you're now starting to explore, hey, what are the opportunities going to look like to get paid? So I would say the things that you want to have in mind in your like just four pieces to it. So the first is you want to have your resume. So the resume, there's a ton of different tools out there. I tend to think the better you can make your resume simple, clean, crystal clear. So it could be a Word document. It's just got to be super focused. It's got to be, you might have a couple versions. You might have one version for one role and another version if you're looking for something that's like slightly different, like maybe QA and software engineer. And it doesn't need to look super pretty. So you don't have to worry about using some kind of like fancy graphics or getting on Canva or something else. It can just be plain black and white with just bullet points and text. It's really the substance that's going to matter. And there's nothing that you can put on there that's going to help you usually land a job as a junior engineer. But there's a ton of things you can put on there that are going to discourage people from pursuing you as the right candidate for the job. So I just make sure that you're following, I've given some previous guidance on resumes, following most of those suggestions and recommendations. You can check them out on YouTube. There's a ton there. And then once you've got your resume tightened up, and again, pro tip for the resumes, make sure you use that burner phone number, because you don't want them calling you once you actually get a job. So you only want, calls while you're looking for a job. I'd use like a Google Voice number. That way you can, as soon as you get a job, you can not worry about people calling you for like the next 6 months. So you want to have that. You want to have your resume. You want to have your LinkedIn profile. Got to have your LinkedIn really tight and on point. That way, when you're starting to connect with folks, when they're looking to see who you are and what is it you've done, you come off as a trustworthy individual that is really looking to get some stuff done. And you're looking for an opportunity and you really enjoy software engineering. So make sure your LinkedIn profile is tightened up, good to go. You need to have your portfolio. So you need to have something that demonstrates your work. And that could also be GitHub. So you can use GitHub for both of those. So you want engineering managers, people that are hiring, to be able to view what your sample of your work, what the quality of your product is that you can produce, and sort of what you're most interested in. So it's kind of nice for them to be able to see some of your passion projects. And again, your portfolio could just be a markdown document on a GitHub repository, or you could create your own WordPress website. Don't get too caught up in the mechanics of what platform your portfolio is on. It's much more important to focus on the content and building out a solid amount of content for it. So I'm going to pause there and again put a call out there for questions. What questions that folks have about this job search process? Happy to, again, just sort of give you my experience. I've helped hundreds of students go through the process of transitioning from learning software engineering into permanent roles at organizations. And it means that you're going to have to, at some point, do the job search, do the interviews, and at some point, answer and check all those boxes that let the person know you're going to be the right fit for the organization. So I'm going to pause and give some time for folks to put some questions in there. Let me know what are the parts that you're struggling with the most. And for those of you that missed this live is the jam. This is how you get your questions answered. But you can shoot me an email at mike@creatingcodingcareers or cccareers.org. And then you can also just drop messages in the chat in the comments. I usually will go back through in between, and I'll sort of gather up and collect questions that happen in between the sessions, and then share those responses. So I don't think I have any from last week. I'll do a quick review of my email, which has got thousands of messages in it, so it's kind of hard to find stuff. But if I have any, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So I'm just going to literally just type question and see what we get. And then just look for people that the names are not familiar, and that might get us close. Recorded sessions. Okay. I don't see any questions I've missed, so that's good. So what questions do folks have about the job search? Is it going well? Are people out there finding jobs? Because I hear good things, and I'm seeing people getting offers. So had a few of our folks get offers. That's always good. If you don't get any questions, this is gonna be a short one. We're doing lunch. You know what that means? Strawberry banana smoothie. So I don't see any. I'm just checking my boxes to make sure nothing else has come through. And if so, then let's check on LinkedIn, because I could have swore that someone sent me a question on LinkedIn that I didn't get a chance to cover last week. And I feel like I would be doing it a disservice if I didn't at least make the attempt to I just get so much spam. It's like, even on LinkedIn, that's one thing you're going to have to kind of put up with, is there is quite a bit of spam in here. So I did get some questions about the apprenticeship, so I can kind of cover that. It may not be a great fit for everybody, but I can kind of give the logistics and the rundown of the program, because I do get quite a bit of those. So the way the apprenticeship program works is it is a paid opportunity. So we pay individuals to learn the fundamentals of software engineering, and then to gain about a year of meaningful hands-on experience working for various clients that we have, working on projects, or working embedded on teams with other engineers. And that gives folks that are in the early phases of their career access and the time needed for them to gain some confidence in sort of the core fundamental skills. Everything else is going to sort of you'll pick it up over time. Hey, Caleb, I see a question. I'll answer that in just a second. Awesome. So for the most part, the way we've sort of tried to solve the problem that I see in education right now, I see two fundamental problems. One is the lack of access and affordability. So we're trying to kind of keep it at an affordable cost for folks, Right now, there's no cost for folks. We're just paying people. But I think eventually there'll be some sort of like tuition for some basic training, and then the job portion might be still, it's a great opportunity for you to get a year of experience. And then the second piece is that there's just not a good fit between the amount of time and investment you have to make and what companies are looking for in terms of the speed at which they're looking to onboard folks. And so we've tried to create a product for businesses that makes it easy for them to identify talent, because we've done it for them. And then once we've identified quality talent, given them all the skills, then we try and make it as low risk as possible for our customers, for businesses, and create an opportunity for them to try working with us and seeing if they can get access to a diverse pipeline of students that I feel like can deliver a ton of value, and our customers feel like they deliver a ton of value and are not otherwise able to be found in the marketplace, right? It's just hard to find early career software engineers that have a lot of experience. There's a ton that have graduated from boot camps and code schools and have been self-taught, but they don't have nearly the level of experience as our apprentices once they've been working for a year in the industry. So I'll pause there and just say, if you're interested in more information, we just redid our website. It looks amazing now. So great job to the team for getting that done. It's at cccareers.org, and it looks super impressive. So I'd love to get some feedback from other people. If you think it looks whack, send me a message. Let me know what you think we could improve. But I'm pretty impressed. Our team, our folks, they did a pretty good job polishing it up, making it look nice and pretty. So Caleb asks, how steady is a junior developer's first role? I noticed some devs have short-term roles and are back looking for work. That concerns you. Okay. So it should. I think there's a variety of reasons why some engineers are hired for a short period of time and then are back out in the marketplace if they're like graduates from a code school. So I've got a lot of experience with those. So I'll kind of cover that as the first bucket. So for a lot of engineers that come out of a program, they may be too quick to jump onto opportunities that are not long-term opportunities, but instead they're like internships, unpaid internships, short 3-month contract to hire opportunities. And that's really not enough time for someone to get a really good toehold, understand the business, and start growing and thriving as an early career developer. So what you should be looking for, the signals that it might be a better opportunity, would be an organization that like says, hey, we want you to be successful. And they're not hiring you as like a, let's try this out, let's give it 2 or 3 months. It's like, look, we're going to hire you. We're going to have some expectations for like 30, 60, 90 days. And as long as those things are great, we think you're going to have a long career here. And that conversation is a very transparent conversation. If you're having that type of conversation with an employer, you probably got a decent employer. If it's the employer's like first time working with a junior engineer and they're just trying things out, that's like any other business venture going to probably lead to failure more times than it leads to success. So that is, I think, the reason why I attribute the high degree of like turnover in, number one, a lot of startups. So startups are hiring a lot of these juniors and willing to take the risk of hiring a junior versus the more established companies that just have experience. And the second piece is, again, some devs are just looking at this as like not really a lifelong learning experience, but instead a like, where can I get in where I fit in? And they're not willing to put the effort and the work into really developing their skill set and getting better. And every day when they clock out, going home and on the grind on the weekends, building passion projects and leveling their skill up so that when it comes time to be 3 or 6 months in, you're looking for another opportunity somewhere and you're not like the last one in, first one to go because you're sort of like the weakest person on the team because you haven't done anything with the opportunity. A lot of folks get super complacent once they get that first gig and it's a rude awakening. Then it's just like, well, you didn't put any effort into like getting better every day. As long as you're getting better, you're doing well. And as long as the company was thinking about this as a long-term hire, I think it's going to work out. But it's that combination. It's the combination of like, there's just not a really good fit sometimes between the early career developer and the organizations that don't have a lot of experience developing early career talent. And as a consequence, that's why they'll say, I can only hire a senior engineer. Some of it's like short term. They just want to be productive, so they're willing to pay a high premium to bring someone in that can make a big impact right away. But some of it's also a acknowledgement that they are not an organization that is successful at developing people, right? And so because they don't have the capacity to do talent development, then many times they'll say, look, we hire a senior engineer, we need experienced people. Because they understand they don't have good mid-level management, they don't have good resources in terms of a training and learning department, they don't have a process, they don't have a track record of being able to take people from early career to mid to senior, distinguished to principal, or off to team lead, department lead, engineering manager, VP engineering, CTO. They like, if you ask them like, what's the progression? They're like, oh, you can make your own career when you come here. We need the opportunity to grow. It's like, no. You need to have career paths for folks. You need to have job descriptions, career paths. So as you get further in your career, you'll be able to start asking those questions of employers. Initially, you want to just be finding like, okay, are any of these red flags apparent as you're starting to look for a good fit? Are you hearing a red flag about like, hey, this is an unpaid internship? You hear those two words, run away fast. Because number one, they shouldn't be unpaid, right? There's plenty of opportunities to create a paid opportunity for folks. So that's red flag number one. And then number two is like, why do internship when you can do something as great as an apprenticeship? The difference between internship and apprenticeship is like night and day. So those are, again, things that you should be thinking about as you're starting to kind of, in your brain, you're starting to think, okay, there's a little risk involved in this space. Not really. It's actually not hard to rise to the top and not be one of the first ones let go. It's not hard. So if you're watching for those signs, and if you're really being thoughtful and intentional about where you're applying and the kinds of companies that you'd like to work at, I think that problem is going to resolve itself. So hopefully that helps, Caleb. That's my take on it. Hannah, I got a question. What are some common dark avoid patterns when solving an algorithm as part of a job application? Okay. Good question. I have not really thought about this. So let me think. Dark patterns, things. So I don't think as much as dark patterns. I think more about like things that a newer person might, like mistakes that you might make, might be a better way for me to describe the fact that you're, and generally speaking, as an earlier career person, you're a little bit more focused on the implementation detail versus like asking lots of questions and doing a really good job of solving the real problem, right? So it's rarely, if ever, like your selection of the algorithm. It's much more of like the work that leads to why you selected that algorithm, right? Were you really thinking about the customer's needs? Were you thinking about what would happen if it started to scale? Whatever the problem is, whatever they're having you build, if they're having you solve some algorithm, what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and why is this a solution that's going to be efficient and economical in time and space as their problem starts getting bigger? Because generally speaking, an organization that is looking for algorithms as part of their screening process is cognizant and very much aware that they might have size and scale issues. And so, if you're a Walmart or an Amazon or Microsoft, then you're dealing with things that are, they've got to be able to scale up and out. And so I'd look for that first. It's not the algorithm. It's like, okay, what questions are you asking, and how well are you suiting the overall solution to the problem presented, right? So you might solve the problem, but do it in such a way where it's like super expensive in terms of time and resources. So try and avoid that. I also commonly suggest that folks also don't overthink things and try and first provide sort of like a brute force solution, right? So one of the methodologies that I teach when I'm teaching problem solving and interview techniques is start with the brute force and explain, like, this is how we could just get this done. This is the simplest way. This is the rather like trivial way of solving this. And now let's put some thought into how we might be able to optimize this and get this to the point where this is going to hum along at the scale, and then be able to kind of speak to that language and be able to describe, what's the big O of this, right? And don't do what I once had someone do when he's in a mock interview. Person said, well, how much how much time do you think this is going to take to run? And their response was something along the lines of, not that long. The computers are pretty fast. And I was like, you're a knucklehead, because it's not what he was trying to ask you. What he was trying to ask you is, Big O, what's the signature? Not the computer is fast, so it won't take that long. But I hear some funny things. So hopefully that helps, Hannah. That's the biggest hurdle that I see when people are solving code challenges or interviews. They tend to get caught in like the specific implementation detail, and they lose sight of the bigger picture, which is like, okay, let's make sure you can walk through why you're selecting this solution, and does it solve for like a scaling problem. An interesting one that I had someone talk to me about a little while ago was like, he was making some reference to algorithms on the front end, and I was like, yeah, but it's going to run on the front end, so there's only so much the efficiency you're going to need to squeeze out of the browser, right? So as long as we're not creating a situation where you have garbage collection and infinite loops, or functions that are being triggered on re-renders, things like that, you would want to then explain like, oh, well, we use a library, and we might also want to do something like memoize a function so that it doesn't consume more resources if we're doing a lot of page refreshes or a lot of re-rendering of the page. Like, you want to be able to kind of talk through not just the algorithms, but also implementation details that lets you provide a better user experience for end users. So don't get always like too caught into like picking this sort versus that sort, and try and focus on the bigger picture, which is like, well, how many items are we ever going to really sort if we're on the front end, right? And that's sometimes what I want to hear. I want someone to push back and say, yeah, here's what I'm trying to like establish is really important. Is this what's important to you? And if so, we should be thinking about these parts of the problem. And here's what I would suggest, that, we look at this, and this. And then it's a systems design. It's like, okay, you're designing a solution to their problem. I like that. When I see candidates thinking it through, that kind of helps me to say, oh, okay, I can see your thought process. I can see how you're going to adjust to new scenarios and situations. And that's super helpful. Getting them to understand what your process is, that's a big part of what the interview is. Getting them to kind of be on the same page, super helpful. Even if it's rather flawed, even if your way of solving problems is a little taking a long trip around the mountain, like, I can teach you the shortcuts. Like, that stuff that's easy. What else? Aish Brown, it's good to see you in the chat. Love our change agent. Love it. Caleb, absolutely, you are welcome. All right, any other questions? I feel like we got some good ones. And then it slows down. That's all right. The replays are glorious, by the way. I see people going on and watching the replays and commenting on them. So I love that. I appreciate everybody's support. I feel like this is a good use of an hour of my day. I get to help a lot of folks that are hopefully going to be building great things and helping to support lots of businesses and just making amazing things happen. So happy to be a part of that. All right, unless I get another question, we're going to end early. I will be at the meetup tonight. I can give you a link to the meetup tonight. I'm going to be giving a talk, so should be interesting. Meetup, San Diego JS. Let me get the exact link too. That way people can get right to the event. Oh, it still says TBA. Okay, we're going to fix that. We got a couple speakers, so it'll definitely be going down tonight. We will definitely have a few speakers. I'm going to drop a little link in here so that everybody can get to the meetup tonight. I will definitely be talking about a career-related topic. I think I'm going to talk about resources for passion projects. So if that's something that you are interested in, check out the meetup tonight. We'll talk a little bit, dig into what it is that you could be using to sort of like spark your interest and get you working on some passion projects. Hannah asks, is it okay to use a recursive solution or sometimes okay or never okay? Sure. So the recursive solution could be the best solution, and there are some problems that it lends itself, like a recursive solution is probably the best way to implement it. So sometimes I'll ask a interview question to see if people will avoid the recursive pattern or if they will just implement it. And there's no reason not to implement it if it turns out that it is the simplest way to solve the problem and it results in easy to maintain and easy to understand and easy to read code. So those are what you should be thinking about in terms of the solution. Now, obviously there is a time and space complexity to solving the problem, but regardless of that, you still were making the code for humans to be able to maintain. And so if the recursive solution is the right solution, yeah, absolutely. So I put the link in the chat, but here I can put on a banner too. That might be helpful. I'll throw it on a banner here for a little bit. Boom. All right. So there's the meetup link. Grab that. I don't know if you can click on it though. You might have to type all those letters. That would be redonkulous. But you could type San Diego JS, meetup San Diego JS, and then you'll be able to find the event. Any other questions? Oh, we got another comment. Nice. Cool, Hannah. Good to see you. Any other questions? If not, I think we're going to wrap. All righty. It's been good. We'll do it again next week. So if you have questions in between, feel free. Send me an email, mike@cccareers.org. You can also drop a comment on like LinkedIn. I'll gather those and have those ready for the next time. Again, once a week, every Tuesday, 12 o'clock Pacific, we kick it off and we'll go for as long as people have questions. Well, and within an hour. My schedule does not permit me to go longer than that. So today I'm going to cheat because we have no more questions. I'm going to get a little bit longer of a lunch break. And then, yeah, we'll have back at it next week. Later.